Hello there, welcome or welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, hi, my name is Samantha and this is my channel where I talk all about books. Anyway, today I'm coming to you with my February and March wrap up. So I don't normally combine months, but basically the issue I had for February was I think that there was only one book that I read, which I did not vlog in another video. So because of that, I was like, this is going to be such a boring wrap up. I'm just going to be pointing you in the direction of all of the other videos. So in the end, I just decided not to do a February wrap up. And I thought, you know what, when March comes around, we'll combine the two. So that's what we're doing. And yet again, in March, I also have quite a few books that I have been vlogging. So I don't feel like I have a ton of books to mention, but I will do my normal format of going through all of the stats first, which I get from Storygraph. And then we'll go through all of the books that I read and what I rated them, and then I will talk about the books that I feel like I have more to say about. So probably the books that I haven't mentioned in another vlog. So yeah, let's just get into it. So I'm going to alternate between Feb stats and March stats, I think, instead of going all the way through Feb and all the way through March. Yeah, that's just what we're gonna do. So let's start a little screen recording. So in the month of February, I read 5 books. It's not a lot. I feel like I've been a little bit slumpy the last 2 months, and I've had quite a few DNFs as well, which I haven't counted towards my total, obviously. But yeah, I had 5 books that I actually finished. I read 2,351 pages, and according to Storygraph, I didn't listen to any audiobooks, but I think I definitely did listen to audiobooks. I just didn't count them on Storygraph because I started off just reading physically and then I swapped to the audiobook, or I did a little combination of reading and listening at the same time. So yeah, it says I didn't listen to any audiobooks, but I think I did. And my average time to finish a book was 4 days, which is actually pretty speedy. I just didn't read that much, apparently. And then for March, again, I read 5 books in the month of March. A similar amount of pages. I had 2,356 pages, and it says 0 hours here. But again, I definitely listened to some audio, but I think it was just because I started physically. And my average time to finish a book in March was 5 days. So 1 day slower. And going into the moods, so in February, most of the books I read were emotional. I read 4 emotional books, 2 hopeful, 2 funny, 2 adventurous, 1 reflective, 1 lighthearted, 1 inspiring, and 1 dark. I'm trying to think of what the dark book was, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. And in March, my moods were mostly emotional, 4 emotional, 3 sad, 2 tense, 2 reflective, 2 dark, 1 hopeful, and 1 adventurous. Interesting. So I've been feeling the emotional books, but I don't normally have that many sad books, so that's really funny to me. I definitely cried in at least 2 books in March, and I also cried at a couple movies, so I was just emotional in March. I don't know what was going on, but I cried a lot. Moving on to the pace. In February, I read all medium-paced books, and in terms of page number, 4 of the 5 books I read were between 300 and 499 pages, and 1 book was over 500 pages. The pace was actually a lot more fast-paced books. I had 2 medium-paced books and 3 fast-paced books. For page number, all of the books I read were in the 300 to 499 pages range. So my fiction-nonfiction split is going to be the same for February and March, so I'm not going to switch between them. I only read fiction books so far this year. Actually, I've only read fiction books. I need to work on that, but because I've had so many vlog projects going on, I just have not been prioritizing reading my nonfiction collection, so I need to get better about that. I also have nonfiction audiobooks. I mainly use my Audible credits on nonfiction, so I need to start listening to audiobooks again and actually reading nonfiction, because I think I set a goal of reading 10 maybe, and I haven't read a single one. And we're already in April, so this is crazy. Moving on to genres. So for February, I read a lot of romance. I read 3 romance books, all 3 of which were contemporary romance, if I'm not mistaken. I read 2 fantasy books. 1 book was in the literary category, and 1 was historical. And then for March, my genres are gonna look quite different. I read 3 contemporary books, 2 dystopian, 2 young adult, 2 sci-fi. I do believe that that's all the same 2 books. They were young adult, dystopian, sci-fi. 2 romance books and 1 literary. So a lot more literary than I normally read, which is so strange because I'm not really a literary girly, but apparently 2025 is the year of me reading literary fiction. Who knew? And then moving on to the format. In February, I read exclusively print books. Is that correct? That feels wrong, but I think that might be right in terms of the books that I actually finished. I read a lot of books from my physical TBR. So yeah, they were all physical books. For March, again, it says I read all print books, but that's actually incorrect because I definitely read a book on my Kindle. So I clearly just didn't choose the right format when I clicked on it. But I have been just really prioritizing my physical TBR, as you know. And then in terms of my star rating, February was, I can already tell you, probably a better month than March in terms of the rating. So I had an average rating of 3.75, which is perfect. That would be my ideal average rating for the year. I mean, obviously, if it was higher, that would be even better. But if it could be 3.75, that would be perfect. But I had one of all of these. So I had one 2.5, one 3, one 3.75, one 4.5, and one 5. And then for March, oh, actually, it's not that much of a difference. I had an average rating of 3.7 and I had one 1-star. That's what I really thought was gonna skew March to being a worse rating, but not too bad. So yeah, one 1-star, one 3-star, one 4.5, and two 5-star reads. Anyway, so now that we've gone through all of the statistics, let's go into every book I read and what I rated them. Apart from some books which I haven't actually posted the vlogs for yet. For those, I'm gonna leave you waiting to see what the ratings are. First of all, I read Circe by Madeline Miller and I gave this 4.5 stars. I won't be talking about this book in this video because I already went into this in depth in TBR Tackle episode 1. So I will link that up in the card and I will also link the playlist down below for you to go check out if you want. I loved this, 4.5 stars. Next, I read Queen of Shadows by Sarah J Maas. This was a reread and it's one of my favorite books of all time. It remains a 5-star read. Then I read Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez and I gave this 3.75 stars. Again, I won't be going into more detail with this one because I spoke about it at length in my romance reading vlog, which again, I'll link up in the card and down below in case you want to go check it out. In that same vlog, I also read You Deserve Each Other by Sarah Hogle and I gave this 3 stars. This one was quite disappointing. Moving on to yet another TBR Tackle vlog. In episode 2 of TBR Tackle, I read This Could Be Us by Kennedy Ryan and I gave that 2.5 stars. And I also read Hello Beautiful by Ann Napolitano and I gave this 5 stars. So if you want to hear all of my thoughts about this book and This Could Be Us, I will link that video up in the card and it's down below if you want to go check it out. This is also my February book club pick with my girlies, but we were just all very late to reading it and we didn't actually talk about it until the 30th of March, I think. So we ended up skipping March. This was like the February/March pick and we all loved it, in case you were curious. Next, I read Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez and I gave this 3 stars. Then I read Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings and I'm not going to tell you my rating for this because this will be in TBR Tackle episode 3. So look out for that. It should be coming in a week or two. Depends what I finish first because I'm working on another vlog project, which these 2 books are for, which I'm going to talk about now. So I also read Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins and I reread for the first time in 11 years The Hunger Games. And again, not going to tell you my ratings for any of these books. Those were all of the books that I read and what I rated them. So as you can see, there are a lot of books that I've already spoken about in other videos. I think we have 2 books to talk about today, which I haven't already spoken about. So this video is not going to be very long, which is great for me for editing, but I wish it could be longer. I love a super long video, but I don't want to talk about books again and again. So first of all, we're going to talk about Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. This was an advanced reader copy, which actually comes out in April. I think it might have been April 1st, actually. Let me see. Yes, this book was published on April 1st, which for me was yesterday. So this book is out now for you to go and check out if you want. But this book really strangely follows our main character called Samantha, which is weird for me to read. But yeah, follows our main character Samantha. And essentially she meets this guy called Xavier and he is a vet. So she's taking her kitten into the vet, meets him, and she's like, oh my god, this is the most gorgeous man I've ever seen in my life. But he is very grumpy. He doesn't really like people. Well, they kind of get off to a rocky start but end up going on a date and have like the most memorable, wonderful date of all time. Unfortunately, the next day, Samantha is moving all the way across the country to go live with her family because of course there are some absolutely heartbreaking things that are happening at the same time because Abby can't just let her characters have peace. They have to have problems. So yeah, there is a lot of hardship in this book and they end up not being able to be together, but they can't stop thinking about the other one. So they try to make it work. And then ensues a very frustrating read of characters trying to make a long distance relationship work for 400 pages whilst going through trauma. And it is one of the more depressing romance books I've ever read. It was not a fun time, let me tell you. I've kind of learned that Abby Jimenez has a certain formula, and that is the main characters meet, they instantly hit it off. Maybe they go on a date and they have the best time ever. They realize that this is their person. They are meant to be together. However, something happens, which means that they cannot be together. It's normally family related or job related, and that means that they can't be together. So they spend the next like 250 pages trying to make it work, just struggling, having a rough time, and then eventually there is a happily ever after. And it is not really my favorite formula, I'm not gonna lie. I loved Just for the Summer. That is my favorite Abby Jimenez book, but I feel like her books are feeling a bit repetitive to me, especially because I normally take quite a long gap between reading Abby Jimenez books. But obviously I read Part of Your World in February and then I read this in March, so it was not very much time at all. It was like maybe 2 or 3 weeks in between, and they just felt, especially those two books, felt so similar. And so I found it to be really, unfortunately, boring and just like painful to read. Like, it just hurts so much, and for what reason? Especially because you know they're gonna end up together. So it's like they didn't have to go through all of this. And it's just, I don't know, it's not a fun reading experience. I did think that there were some cute moments and some like funny moments, and I read this so quickly. I do just fly through her writing style, but yeah, like I said, didn't love it. And there was something in here that, like I said this in my review, that it's going to haunt me to my grave. There was a description of food, and I'm just confused because I thought that Abby was a chef. She's a baker, so surely she knows about like flavor combinations. And there was just this description of an appetizer that our main character Samantha was making, and it just sounds so disgusting. I just cannot fathom how anyone would think that this was tasty. I don't understand, but it was baked jalapenos filled with cream cheese and peanut butter, topped with raisins and feta. I am shocked. And when I tell you, I actually stopped reading for 10 minutes because I literally just couldn't, I just could not continue because I was so like just baffled, because I was like, how is that a food combination that anyone is gonna eat? I don't understand. And none of the characters said anything about it, and I'm like, how? I don't understand. So yeah, I was honestly shocked. And yeah, that did bring down the enjoyment a little bit. It might have been a 3.5, but it was a 3 purely because of that food. All jokes aside, if you like Abby Jimenez's style, then you will probably enjoy this one, but just know it is very sad. So don't go in it looking for a fun time, because you won't have a fun time. You will be upset. Moving on to the last book I'm going to talk about. Only the second book, but I already mentioned all of the other books in other videos. So I will quickly talk about Queen of Shadows by Sarah J Maas. As I said, this was a reread for me. I love this book. It's one of my favorite books of all time. I just feel like in this one, there are so many threads that are being connected. There's so much buildup from the first 3 books, but specifically the third book. There's so much buildup in that gets sort of not resolved in this, but kind of resolved in this. And it's such an exciting book. Like, it is thick, but you can fly through this in like a few days because it's just so fast-paced, so intense. I love it so much. If you don't know what Throne of Glass is about, it follows our main character, Selena Sardothian. She is an 18-year-old assassin who has been enslaved in the salt mines of Endovier for the last year. And at the beginning of book 1, she is approached by the prince to compete in this competition to become the king's champion, which is essentially the king's personal assassin. And after being the king's champion for a few years, she will then get her freedom. So she's like, of course, I have to do this because I can't spend another minute in these salt mines. Most people don't last like more than a couple months, and she's already been there for a whole year. And then from there, things really build and change, but that is like the starting point in Throne of Glass. And I love it. I love this series so much. I hate to say it, but I do. It's great. And I love this book specifically. This is my favorite one in the series, I think. Anyway, those are all of the 10 books that I read in the last 2 months. Obviously, didn't go into a lot of detail for these books, so do go check out those other videos if you're interested. If not, at least you know my ratings. But yeah, that's all that I have for this video, so thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked it. If you did, please give a thumbs up. If you're new here, feel free to subscribe down below, and please let me know what books you read in the last month down below. I would love to know. And if you don't have anything else to say, leave me a bird emoji for the Hunger Games. But yeah, that is all that I have, so I'll see you very soon with another video. Bye!